To make it easier for you to assess whether an idea you're having or a feature or a service is complying with the EIF, 12 interoperability principles have been defined. Principle 1. Subsidiarity and proportionality. Each country, when implementing a public service, should follow the EIF recommendations to ensure cross-border and cross-domain interoperability. The EIF recommendations provide guidelines for the implementation of the interoperability principles, the interoperability governance, and the conceptual model for integrated public services provision. However, each country should enjoy sufficient flexibility to adapt the EIF to its national ecosystem by means of a national interoperability framework. NIFs are expected to be tailored and extended in such a way that national specificities are properly addressed. In summary, NIF is the abbreviation of National Interoperability Framework, which is the equivalent of the European Interoperability Framework at national level. Principle 2. Openness. Openness means that whenever possible, you should try to make public data freely available to be used by other public service providers, unless it is sensitive that needs to be protected. Use open source software developed by communities of developers, as these are freely available and are usually maintained and easier to adapt in the future. Use open specifications or standards, as these have a positive effect on interoperability. Openness empowers citizens and businesses to co-design public services. Examples: use of open-source software technologies and products, creation of an open data government portal. Principle 3. Transparency. Transparency in the context of EIF is about public administrations allowing other public administrations, citizens, and business to understand internal rules, processes, data, services, and decision-making, while also ensuring availability of interfaces with internal information systems that facilitate the reuse of data and its integration into larger systems. The transparency principle also includes crucial elements related to the right to the protection of personal data. Example: ensuring visibility of interfaces used with internal information systems. Principle 4. Reusability. When confronted with designing a service or a solution, have a look at what others have done and assess its reusability, and try to use existing services, solutions, concepts, frameworks, specifications, and tools whenever relevant. This means that you will have to contribute in the same way, by sharing with others your solutions, concepts, frameworks, specifications, and tools. Principle 5. Technological neutrality and data portability. When establishing European public services, public administrations should focus on functional needs and defer decisions on technology as long as possible in order to minimize technological dependencies, to avoid imposing specific technical implementations or products on their constituents, and to be able to adapt to the rapidly evolving technological environment. Allow access of their public service and data to everyone, regardless of the technology they are using. Also make sure data created within one system can be transferred into new systems, as this is key to evolution of public services. Example: data portability, the ability to move and reuse data easily among different applications and systems. Principle 6. User centricity. When designing public services, users' needs should be at the core design process. Key recommendations include allowing users to access a service using alternative channels, for example both physical and digital. Provide a single point of contact for services where multiple institutions have to work together. Collect feedback from users to further improve existing services. Users should only provide the information once. Examples: ensuring the availability of physical and digital channels to access a service. Requesting user feedback. Principle 7. Inclusion and accessibility. This principle is about designing public services that do not leave aside the people who need more help. This means designing services that are accessible to everyone, overcoming social and economic divides and exclusions, and ensuring that people with disabilities, the elderly, and other disadvantaged groups can use the service just like any other citizen. Principle 8. Security and privacy. Public services must guarantee citizens' privacy and the confidentiality, authenticity, and integrity of information. This is why public administrations must define a common security and privacy framework when exchanging data with other public administrations, businesses, and citizens. Example: implement GDPR in public service delivery. Principle 9. Multilingualism. This principle is about making an effort to provide public services in the language of the expected end users, with a number of supported languages having to be decided based on users' needs. Principle 10. Administrative simplification. Public administrations should seek to streamline and simplify their administrative processes by improving them or eliminating any that does not provide public value, as this can help businesses and citizens to reduce the administrative burden of complying with EU legislation or national obligations. This means following the concepts of digital by default, meaning that there is always at least one digital channel available for a public service; digital first, meaning that priority is given to using public services via digital channels. Example: applying the digital first principle. Principle 11. Preservation of information. Data and records of information in electronic form must be preserved and converted to new media when old media becomes obsolete, including associated electronic signatures and seals. Example: digitizing archives in an electronic format. Principle 12. Assessment of effectiveness and efficiency. When implementing new public services, consider factors such as return of investment, ROI, cost of ownership, adaptability, efficiency, reduced risk, transparency simplification, level of user satisfaction. Example: evaluate different technological solutions according to many metrics, such as user satisfaction and cost.